It's June 2018 and I'm lost in Lisbon, or staying there anyway, and I'm doing a tour with Wild Tours. You just give them a donation at the end if you like the tour.
This was the art part, okay? Now it's always down until we start the tour, but it's always down. And I used to live with her for a couple of years.
Yeah. It's the 26th of June and I'm doing the Lisbon tour from the Lost in Hostel. Lost in Lisbon Hostel. Changed over guide.
Well, over here, let me just organize the group. Sorry, 2 minutes in. Lost in everybody here, right? You are with me as well, and you as well.
You two, you are going with Marco, okay? And you two, you're going with Marco, okay?
Okay, let me see.
I like how in church he is like a man that takes control. Opposed to
Guys, you are with me on my pickup. Guys, we are going to split the groups in two so that it doesn't become very overwhelming for everyone. So actually we are going to be starting the tour on that square over there, okay? Come with me, I'll take care of you.
He also has
The old-fashioned technique of shoe shining.
To the right, to the right, to the right. Come closer, I took a shower, it's safe.
Nothing to sniff at.
Good morning, people. Welcome to Lisbon. Are you excited for the tour?
Yes.
Liars, it's early in the morning. My name is Hugo, and I'm going to be your guide for today. Have you done already walking tour before or not? Are you filming your
If that's
tour?
alright. Today's tour is heading towards the hospital and then we're going up to the castle.
If you are in the crowded space,
So the guy's just
like
been
a
telling us
tram,
that Lisbon
a
is one of the
view,
safest places
whatever it is,
in the
just
world
careful
to
with your
be.
stuff and you'll be just
You're not
fine.
going to get robbed
Can I trust you
or
on this?
shot at or
Okay?
knifed in
Don't
Lisbon
be paranoid,
like a lot of other
don't be scared,
capital
just take care of your
cities.
things. I've been doing this for many years. I never had a single problem in any of my tours, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the first one today. Okay? Let's talk a bit more. Let's talk about happier things.
So we're heading towards the hospital now. There's some of the trip that the guide doesn't want me to record because he's more open about the city than a lot of the other guides. And they have copyright on the conversation, which is fair enough.
You see the name of it? It's called Hospital Bonecos. Does anybody here knows what that means in Portuguese by any chance? No? This actually literally means the dolls hospital or the hospital for the dolls.
This is the hospital for the dolls.
There's actually a very cool story about this hospital here. So, in the early 19th century after Christ, this was not the hospital for the dolls. This was actually a shop for a woman. And that woman, she was a handy woman. She used to fix things. If your shoe was broken, she would fix it for you. If your shirt was ripped off, she would sew it for you. She fixed things.
So this was a hospital that was run by a lady originally, and she would do minor injuries. Now it's a doll's.
This would be the place.
So if you have a doll that's broken, then we carried over this side, and this is the morgue for the broken dolls that can't be repaired.
Don't break up.
So we've just been told that if you come to Lisbon, the best tram to take is the yellow one. And we'll find out why in a minute, and I'll translate it rather than get it off the guide. So Mariana is just learning to be a tour guide, and so she just joined us.
Tomorrow, it's going to be on the other part of the city.
So the guide's just told us that the red and green trams charge 15% more than the yellow trams, and they're not as reliable and not as good. And drugs are sold on the streets. A guy will walk up to you with his hand with a small handful of marijuana or hashish, and it's below 2 grams. If it's over 2 grams, then that's possession, so that people can get arrested. The guides will try and offer you more, and then when you get more, you're not getting any drugs at all. You're getting a mixture of herbs and a cross-section of things, so you're actually getting ripped off, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So
this is the Moiri area, and we're just going up into the graffiti street. In 2008, the Lisbon Council made it legal to have graffiti art in set areas, and this area is set out specifically for that, so it's constantly evolving. And there are other areas in the city as well, because the city sees the potential of commercialising on creativity.
Flamenco, take a picture of me.
Father, it's like the shy cousin of Brad Pitt. It's the shy cousin of flamenco. It's a bit more about intimacy. It's a bit more discreet. I like to say this flamenco, it's explosion. Father, it's emotion. By the way, if you are in Seville, in the south of Spain, don't miss a flamenco show because it's amazing. It's a blast of energy. Father, it's more melancholic. It's more nostalgic. It was actually born on this neighborhood over here, Moraria, an old Moorish neighborhood in Lisbon, and it is said that Father was brought to the taverns of Lisbon by a specific woman. That woman over there on the wall. Her name is Maria, because every woman in Portugal they are named Maria. Severa. She's dressed up like that because she was what was her job?
Prostitute.
A prostitute. Actually, in these days you cannot see this anymore. But if you're doing a tour with me like roughly 4 years ago, and if you look at her right boob, her right breast, actually before...
So this instrument is a mixture of the mandolin and the Indian sitar, and it's very difficult to learn to play. It's a Portuguese instrument.
Heroes. Over there I actually know a place where we can buy it for 45 cents. That's a bit of a difference. So actually the cheapest place to buy something right now is going to be where I'm going to.
Right, I found out what this decoration's for. On the 13th of June every year, the local neighbourhoods have a festival, and it runs up to competition, so I believe that the neighbourhood that wins is entitled to have a festival for the entire month. Could be slightly wrong, but so last year was a great year for Lisbon because they won the European Football Cup and also the Eurovision Song Contest. So this year in the spring they held the Eurovision Song Contest. So it's become a great tourist destination for that reason as well. So the guys just told us that even the Prime Minister of Lisbon, of Portugal, said that Portugal isn't a place for young people because there's high unemployment and very little jobs, which is what I've just said. And for the old people, pensions are low, and so life's a struggle. And it's a bankrupt country. So apart from the sun, it's very difficult. But so when you've got the sun, you can... Lisbon is also the third oldest capital in Europe, coming under Athens. So this bridge isn't based on the LA bridge, it's based on the bridge in Sacramento. And the statue over the back there is from South America.
There's also a strong OB percentage for doses.
So the drug problem is one of the lowest in Portugal to the rest of Europe, and Britain and America are being influenced by it because they use addiction control, where they use a lower form of addiction to counterbalance a stronger one. Which means sexually transmitted diseases are also brought under control.
Completely from here, but if you are nearby it, you can actually see it's very similar to the Arch of Triumph that you can see in Paris. I'll ask you actually to memorize that arch, and especially the square in front of that arch. Because the square in front of that arch, it's the biggest square of Portugal. It's called Praça Comércio, and today I'm going to give you some recommendations. I'll tell you about that in Rio de Janeiro. You'll find the bigger and the older version that is called Cristo Redentor. The Christ of Lisbon actually was built with the influence of the Christ of Brazil. There was a Portuguese bishop. He was in Brazil doing a mission. He came back to Portugal, and when he was in Lisbon, Second World War began. He went for the dictator and he told the dictator, if you can promise me that you're going to be neutral during the war, I'm going to collect money, I'm going to build a Christ. That Christ is going to save Portugal from war in the future. As you know, officially we were neutral. He kept his promise. Some people, some guides will tell you, and you will not tell them, Mariana, okay? So you will not tell what some guy is university for circus arts. So many times in that area, people are doing juggling, spitting fire, magicians, street artists, living statues. Many of those artists, they actually come to this school over here. They will learn how to become a street art performer, and then when they are ready, they hit the streets. And I also like this place over here because it's also a charity organization. As you can read over there, Projeto Social ao Serviço da Integridade. In the last 20 years, this also became to be something else. They actually opened a bar, Bar Two, and it's actually a cool different bar that you are used to see. Because usually when you go for a bar, what do you see? You see people asking for shots. Ah, you're the master, let's get wasted, YOLO. And this is a bit more artistic, it's a bit more cultural. So sometimes you are inside, you are having a drink, but there's going to be like a clown around you doing goofy stuff. Sometimes you are inside, you are having dinner, but then it's going to start a theater play right nearby you. They have recitals of poetry, live music shows, expositions, many things that will be concerning art and culture inside. And it's also cool because it's cosmopolitan. So you can see different people inside. You can see different ages, different nationalities. You can see the rich people with their bottles of champagne. You can see the teenagers talking nonsense. You can see the hipsters inside with their big mustaches and their eyes. Okay. Now actually, we arrived to Alfama. Okay? This neighborhood over here is going to be basically the one that's going to spend more time in. It's called Alfama. It's an old neighborhood of Lisbon. Come from inside as well. Actually, some people...
The oldest area in Lisbon, and these buildings are influenced by the Moors, which is the Arabian.
Guys, right behind me right now, it's something that we actually discovered by accident exactly 22 years ago. At the time what they were doing, they actually are going to do over here some construction. To be more accurate, they're going to do here a parking lot. While they are doing the constructions and drillings, they found something weird. They called the city hall. The city hall called the archaeological team, and they actually discovered that over here was the place where before used to lie the ancient amphitheater of Lisbon. Okay? I'm talking about something that was here almost 2 millenniums ago. I'm talking about something that had a capacity for around 4,000 people. And believe me, 4,000 people back then, 2,000 years ago, that was a lot. This was one of the biggest amphitheaters in Lisbon. No, the biggest one in the Iberian Peninsula, actually. Also, now they're trying to do something very cool.
So this is the oldest area in Lisbon now, like moving away from the graffiti. A few years ago, 20 years ago, this amphitheatre was found during excavation, and they're going to find time to renovate it and bring it back into an amphitheatre where they'll stage shows or Greek tragedies. A few years ago, whilst excavating, they came across this amphitheatre, and they're going to do it up over a few years' time and get it working again. It's just behind the castle, so it's a lot older than the castle. Just been told by the guy that melancholy is part of being Portuguese, which is harping on the past and not living for the day. So it's reflecting on the past, and today is just average. So that's cool. But it is influenced by on the music as well.
Okay. Let's go over there. Right now about the earthquake of 755. It's actually one of the biggest events in the 18th century. Anybody here heard about that one, by the way? I know that some of you already heard about that one.
Sorry.
So that you have an idea how big was this earthquake over here. Actually,
in 1785, Lisbon had an earthquake. And on the back of that, everybody went down to the Grand Square, which is down at the bottom in the city. And they settled there, and there was a tsunami. In fact, there was 2 tsunamis where 250,000 people then died. But a lot of those people also lit candles, which set fire to the city. So the devastation just was well extended. After that, the King of Lisbon refused to live in the city, and he lived in a tent for the rest of his life with his family.
A very rich, a very Christian empire. And this earthquake over here happened on a holy day, on a Sunday of all of the days. So this is a living proof that bad things can happen to you despite if you are a Christian.
The earthquake was a Richter 8 and 9 on the Richter scale. From what I can gather, there's two types of accents to the Portuguese. There's the Brazilian, which is very poetic, and the Portuguese Portugal, which is a lot more guttural.
pool by accident. Some people say it's good luck, I think it's dog pool. Here. Yeah, there's nothing to see there. Just look at over here. I'll give you some time to take your pictures if you want. There's actually a face of a woman. Her name is Amália Rodrigues. And Amália Rodrigues, she was the diva of Fado. She was the Lady Gaga of Fado. She was filling up theaters in Moscow, in London, in Tokyo. Even today, if you ever visit a house of Fado, or if you ever talk to somebody that is actually playing or listening to Fado, or learning how to play Fado or to sing Fado, if you ask them what is their inspiration, I believe that 99.9% of them are going to tell you the name of this woman over here. She already passed away, but you can still listen to her on YouTube, or if you want to buy her records, it's also very easy to do it as well. This is actually a portrait made by the most famous Portuguese street artist of the moment. His name is Vils, V-H-I-L-S. He's actually becoming well known around the world as well. So if you want to know other places of his work, I can also put in your maps when the tour is over as well, okay? If you want to take some pictures of the portraits, then when they're ready, actually we're going to finish the tour over there on the neighborhood of my grandmother, okay? Be careful not to... Last hill of the tour. Go slowly, don't run, it's not a race. It's the last.
It's like cracking smiles. Oh, okay. It's like,
voir l'utilisation du besoin.
Mariana, la tua ultima? The Himalayas from Machu Picchu. Can you come a bit closer here? I'm actually stopping here because I would like you to see this white building here. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
There's a white church over there. Okay. That's actually the church of the original patron of Lisbon, Saint Vincent. Igreja de São Vicente, the church of Saint Vincent. And behind that church is actually the place where you can find the oldest market of Lisbon, the flea market of Lisbon, Feira da Ladra, that is actually there every Tuesday and every Saturday. Today it's Tuesday, so now this is not the Harry Potter uniform. This is actually the traditional uniform of Portuguese students. So in Porto, in Lisbon, in Porto in the north, in Lisbon, in Coimbra, those cities where we have many universities, it's where most of the population of students are in Portugal. And many of them are going to dress that uniform, actually like Mariana over here wears it as well. But we are not imitating Harry Potter. Harry Potter is actually imitating Portuguese students. Bam, bam, bam! J.K. Rowling, the one that wrote Harry Potter, she was actually a teacher in Porto during the 80s while she was writing Harry Potter. And actually, because of us,
this is Harry Potter and Lisbon, Portugal connection.
One of them, the Harry Potter. As you can see it over there, all in black with the cape and the emblems as well. It is called traje académico. It was something that was developed so that the rich students would not be distinguished from the poor students in the public universities on the first universities of Portugal. Some of them the oldest ones of Europe in Coimbra, and then it spread out throughout the rest of the country. And why? Why is this coincidence? Because actually J.K. Rowling, the one that wrote Harry Potter, She was a teacher in Portugal during the 80s. She was teaching in Porto, in the city in the north of Portugal, and she got many things that inspired the Harry Potter books. The clothing of the Harry Potter. Also, if you are anybody was in Porto already before, some of you. There's a bookshop in Porto, very beautiful.
So Rowling used to go to university in Lisbon or in Portugal, and that's where she was, a lot of her influences on Harry Potter came from this area.
Because when Harry Potter book was going to buy his books, it was inspired by that bookshop. And if you go to the upper level by the bookshop, if you look down in the area, it's going to give the illusion that the stairs are moving, like a library in Hogwarts. And then you have my favorite one, which is the bridge. The Bridge of Lisbon, Golden Gate Bridge, right now it's called Ponte 25 de Abril, 25 April Bridge. It has that name because of our revolution that happened here at 25 of April of 700. Any more couples today? No, the only ones? I will talk about love. My last speech will be about love.
You hold my hand?
All of you guys know Romeo and Juliet. Are you a couple as well?
No.
They are now.
You can. Sometimes you are nearby the love of your life and don't even know it. Or the worst for sake of a laugh. Sometimes they're together. But okay, where was I? So I'll talk about love. Do you know Romeo and Juliet? You guys? Yes. The biggest, the most, a decade or 2 decades. It's actually something that if my grandmother, if she was here, like decades ago, and she listened to this kind of song, she'll go outside with her house with her knife. Why is that? Right now, we can buy good knives every month, right? Not to be expensive. But before, good knives, they were actually very expensive. So actually, people, they cannot afford to buy knives every couple of months or every couple of years. So actually, this gentleman over here and people like him, they will come out with his bike. They are going to play this tune. People go out with their knives because then on his bike, as you can see if you go closer, there's actually a place where they can sharpen the knives. They're called, it's true, it's called amuladores, and it's something that perhaps in a couple of decades they will not be any longer in Lisbon because right now people they buy
A dying
knives
trade.
in other places.
So this guy blows his whistle and goes out on his bike, and people with their knives can go and have the knives sharpened from his bike with a grinder. A dying.
You can hold hands with him over there. If they allow it to, they also the... So this lady over here, her name is Lady Constanza. Lady Constanza, she's the daughter of a powerful landlord that I, the King of Portugal, the father of Pedro, what I did, I promised to marry my son with this lady. Okay? Good? I want to make an alliance with her father. There's a problem on this story because actually you are going to take a picture of it. Anna, you're going to grab your water.
Oh.
Come over here, Mike.
Me? Okay, do I bring my water?
Of course you can.
Okay.
Can you take care of her bag for me? Is that okay by you? Okay. Come over here. Take care of her bag a little bit. And you can also hold hands with him over here.
No.
The problem over here is actually my son. He's madly in love with this lady over here. Her name is Inês de Castro. And Inês de Castro, she is a first maid. Do you know what the first maid is? You watch Game of Thrones? The first maids are the best friend of the ladies. So when the ladies they go to sleep, they share the same chambers. They go together for dinner, for dancing. They are BFFs. So Pedro de Casanova, he's supposed to marry this lady because I want to make an alliance with her father. But my son is also in love with this lady. And this is a big problem. We are talking about the 14th century after Christ. There was no open relationships back then, okay? There was no Tinder or anything like that. So this actually puts in danger, this jeopardizes the alliance that I want to make with a powerful landlord. So I have to take action. I'm going to hire 2 mercenaries, the 2 of you, come over here. And what do the mercenaries, what do they have to do? They have to kidnap Inês de Castro, take her away from him, take her away!
Do I know about it?
You know it! The pain, the misery. They took her to the woods in Coimbra, and then in the forest in Coimbra, they actually kill her. You can kill her. They kill her. They actually rip her heart out.
Oh my word.
They show it to Pedro. Oh. Remember the tale of Snow White? Remember there's a part on the tale of Snow White that the huntsman needs to show the heart for the evil queen to prove that Snow White is dead. Actually, it is believed that part of the history of Snow White was taken from this story of Portugal. They show the heart to my son. He can feel the pain. My son, he was furious. But I went to him, I arranged a meeting, and I told my son, son, I know that you hate me, but I only did this for the good of the country. I needed to marry the lady because Portugal, we need this alliance to become bigger and stronger. So please, I'm very sick, I'm very old, don't fight your father, because very soon you'll be the king of Portugal, and you'll be a king of a very powerful kingdom if you marry the lady that I told you to marry. Pedro, for the good of the country, he actually chose to marry the lady. Is this the end of the story?
No, I kill you.
His nickname? No, he did not kill me actually. Actually, I passed away quite shortly after he married the lady by natural causes. But now was time for the revenge of Pedro. Pedro, he is a king, and it's going to be time for his nickname to arise. By the way, his nickname is Pedro o Cruel, Peter the Cruel one. Pedro, he married the lady. The lady, she's a bit nervous right now. The lady, she actually had a good life. She actually had a good life for around 2 years. After 2 years, what happened to her, sadly, she died giving birth for the second son of Pedro. So she died during labor of natural causes, okay? Thank you so much, you are dead. Thank you for participation. Pedro is now a widow and he is a king. It's time for his revenge. Now he has many spies. And with those spies, it was easy for him to discover who were the mercenaries that took the love of his life.
Thank you.
He brought the mercenaries to the palace.
What we hit so good?
Come to the palace, I know what you did last summer. Pedro brought them to the palace, and the first thing that he did actually was to take their clothes off, to strip them. You can take their clothes off. He stripped them, okay? And he put them in the prison, in the dungeons. The mercenaries were in the prison during 1 entire week. And during that week, they are only allowed to eat a small piece of bread every 2 days. So they are starving in the prison. After that week, Pedro, he invited all of his friends for a big dinner, a big feast. While everybody was eating, while everybody was feasting, the mercenaries were there, tied up in front of the tables, watching while everybody put food in their bellies while they were starving for a week. After the dessert, Pedro got his metal fork. He put it on fire. There's no lighters, but okay, give it on fire. He went for the mercenaries, and then he ripped out their hearts while they're still alive.
With the fork?
With the fork, yes, go for it. Exactly. Very well. Thank you so much, you are there. Thank you for participation.
Do I eat their hearts too?
No, it's not yet. Wait, it's not over yet. It's not over, because now Pedro is going to go beyond everything that they imagined it would be possible to do. Pedro, he is a widow, and Pedro needs to marry again. Portugal needs a new queen. He could marry any woman of the kingdom, because he was a king of Portugal. But Pedro, instead of going for another woman, what he did, he obliged, he forced, he made the minister of the Catholic Church to officialize his wedding. With who, you ask? With Inês de Castro, the first maid that was murdered in Coimbra by the mercenaries more than 2.5 years ago. She was now officially the Queen of Portugal. He crowned a dead body.
Oh.
But this was not enough for Pedro. Pedro, he sent people for the graveyard to dig out the body of Inês de Castro. And he brought her back to the palace. Come with me, my dear. It's the Walking Dead now. Why did Pedro order that? Come over here to the shade and show them your left hand if you please. So, why? Pedro brought the body back to the palace because there's a ritual to be performed. When you are proclaimed as a queen, you are going to receive the royal ring. And then what happens is that every important nobleman, every important person of the kingdom will have to go to the palace to kneel before the new proclaimed queen and kiss the ring of the new queen to pay tribute. So Pedro that morning, that sick bastard, he dug out the body of Inês de Castro, a body with almost 2.5 years. Now you can imagine how rotten it was. He brought her to the palace. He set her on the throne. He put a crown on her head. He put a ring on her finger, like Jay-Z did to Beyonce, and every important nobleman, every important person of the kingdom had to go to kneel and kiss the ring of the new queen. And I know that you are now thinking, oh yes, Hugo, that is so romantic. Why it's not romantic per se? Because right now, our conception, our vision of romance, it's different from before. Think about romance now and you think about what? You think about St. Valentine's Day, you think about kissing under the rain, dancing under the moonlight, La La Land, Twilight books, whatever. While this is actually a representation of how powerful love can really be. Because a true love, it will not be removed even by death. Love, it is the only perpetual feeling of the universe. It will be the only thing that will prevail even when everything else will be gone. And the most amazing part of this story over here, Romeo and Juliet, all of you know that one. It's a fiction written by William Shakespeare. This story that I told you actually happened. You can Google it. It's a true love story. You're going to find PhDs, masters, theses, books, essays, plays, tons of information about this story over here. One of the biggest ones of the world, the biggest one in Portugal ever. They are still together actually. They don't share the same grave. They have two different tombs in the north of Portugal, in Mosteiro de Alcobaça, but those two graves are actually facing each other for eternity, okay? Thank you so much, very good.
Sweet.
Thank you. Okay, lovely people. I think enough for one day for Easter in culture. You already suffered enough. So I'm going to give you a couple of informations that you may want to enjoy.
If you go to some of the flea markets, you might see tiles for sale. But you've got to be careful because a lot of the tiles that are on sale in the flea markets are stolen from houses. So it's been advised that you only buy tiles that you see being painted on site at the flea market. Otherwise you could be effectively part of a stealing racket in. When you come to Lisbon, always ask before you take pictures of the people because they don't want to be felt as though they're in a zoo. As I've just had that pointed out to me, which is understandable. Thanks to Wild Tours and Lost in Lisbon. This has been a Chris Summerfield video 2018. You can contact me at ccsPhoto12@hotmail.com, and if you'd help to sponsor my videos, you can PayPal me at ccsPhoto1@gmail.com. Don't forget to link up to my YouTube accounts.